Thank you very much, Helen, and thanks, Greg. And it really is encouraging to see such a tremendous turnout. I know this is the middle of the week, and it's not by any means the end of the day, so the fact that so many of you are taking time away from everything you're involved in to be part of this discussion, I think bodes very well for what we're trying to accomplish in continuing to make sure that this is the best place to work in the greater Washington area and the best place to study. And I'd like to see that extend even beyond, both those extend even beyond the greater Washington area. I do want to extend a special welcome to two members of our Board of Trustees who are really critical to this effort. Nelson Carbonell, here in the front row, who is the Vice Chair of the Board. Mr. Carbonell is not only the Vice Chairman of the Board, but is the Chair of the Board's Special Committee on Diversity and Inclusion. And we also have a trustee who is the Vice Chair of the Special Committee on Diversity and Inclusion, and that's Trustee B.J. Penn right here as well, so if you could acknowledge him. We have a number of the university leaders here, also up toward the front of the room. I want to identify them, so if you have questions about their particular areas and you want to follow up, you'll know that they were here. I see Dean Barrett in the back there as well, in the back of the room of the Columbian College of Arts and Sciences. There may be other deans I haven't laid eyes on yet, but if I see them, I'll recognize them. But I do want to point out the vice presidents here. We have Provost and Executive Vice President for Academic Affairs, Steve Lerman, and he's the person to whom I'm glad he's here to hear what you have to say, because he's the person to whom the new Vice Provost, of course, will be reporting, the Vice Provost for Diversity and Inclusion. We have Beth Nolan, who is Senior Vice President General Counsel, very much involved in a lot of the work of the university when it comes to handling claims of discrimination and other things that are related to the work of the council and will be related to the vice provost work. We have Bob Chernak, our senior vice president and senior vice provost for student affairs here. Let's see, and Lorraine Voles is here as well, vice president for external relations. And I think all these areas are critical because you know, one of the aspects of diversity that was touched on in the remarks a moment ago is the fact that we're not just looking at what we do internally as a community, but also our relationship with the community that surrounds us, which I think is a very important element of what we're trying to accomplish both through the council and through the vice provostship, and also the work of many of you around the institution. Let me start with a little bit of a story here. You know, there was a student who entered this university in 1959. His name was Vince. When he arrived here, he found an extremely, and I think for those of you who were alive at that time, well, some of you will remember that, but many in this room probably weren't here at that time. But in 1959, this was still a very strictly segregated institution, to the extent that an African-American student could not be a member of a fraternity. And in fact, and this one I think will really surprise you, an African-American student could not play on the varsity basketball team. Imagine that. That's 1959. When he graduated in 1964, that was just beginning to change, but he himself was something of a pioneer because he ended up joining a fraternity. The one fraternity that would accept him on campus was a Jewish fraternity. That's Tau Epsilon Pi. He joined that fraternity and was then elected president of the fraternity. And he tells that story very eloquently today because he went on from that, in fact, talks about how that experience prepared him for a life of public service. I'm talking about the current mayor of the District of Columbia, Vincent Gray, who was that alumnus who experienced that here at the George Washington University not that long ago in the early 1960s. Well, since Mayor Gray's time as a George Washington student, we have made significant progress, and I'll just give you a few milestones in that. The class of 2014 that just joined us this year is the most diverse in the university's history. We have some, I think, extraordinary traditions that have been started here by our students, like the Iftar dinner, now called the Interfaith Dinner, which was created by Jewish and Muslim students coming together in the wake of the September 11th, 2001 terrorist attacks. You know that we just made progress in other areas, including gender-neutral housing, which, despite the fact that, you know, we're not the first university to enter into that space, nevertheless, it had quite a bit of media attention last month. Our health center, our health programs across the medical center, in our School of Medicine and Health Science, as well as our School of Public Health and Health Services, have focused in a very, I think, admirable and extraordinary way, which I discovered when I first arrived here not too long ago. A lot of their focus is on addressing the health disparities that divide this city. These are disparities in the incidence and outcome of life-threatening diseases, and it's something that we've made a particular focus as part of our engagement in the community. We're engaged with the schools of Washington, D.C. in a way that would not have been true in the 1950s to the extent that it is today. Our freshman day of service saw a couple thousand of our students fanning out across all 8 wards of the District of Columbia, and we're once again going to be having a day of service on Martin Luther King Jr. Day of service. This time we'll be going to Ballou High School across the Anacostia River, and it's another way in which we are trying to bring together the various communities in this city. So we're working within the university, we're working beyond the university to be recognized and to be not just seen as, but to really to be the kind of welcoming institution that makes us the best place to work and the best place to study. But we have to do a good deal more. I talked about the diversity of students we've recruited. That's a tremendous accomplishment that we've made progress really extraordinarily since the time when Vincent Gray was a student here, but we have certainly not done all we can to make sure that the students who come here from all the various communities on which we draw have all the services and support mechanisms available to them to ensure that they succeed when they arrive here. And so the constant work of making sure that we function as a supportive community has to be a component of recruiting students and faculty and staff into this institution. We need to do more to ensure that our faculty and our administrative leaders are broadly reflective of the diversity of our society. This is not just about what you often hear, which is the idea of having role models, which is important, but it's also because for a democracy to succeed, the institutions that are at the heart of that democracy have to be seen as open to all the citizens of the society. And you really can't have the elite institutions of society looking like a minority of the what will be a minority of the population not too many years from now, when in fact the population itself becomes increasingly diverse, increasingly global in its composition. So we have to make sure that we are reflective of the reality of our society. We have to prepare our students to be citizen leaders in the diverse and global society they're going to be encountering after graduation. And that's a society that will continue to evolve in the direction of greater diversity in the coming decades. And we also have to take a look at what we do in terms of managing our operations, including our relationships with vendors, financial institutions, government agencies, everything that gives us an opportunity to make sure that we're operating in as fair and equitable a manner as we can. And of course, I think our Board of Trustees is particularly vigilant when it comes to issues of that kind. The effort that I'm describing is everybody's responsibility, and I think it's critical that we get feedback from the community. The idea of having the Diversity and Inclusion Council, so ably led by Dean Kennedy and Professor Squires, is so that we're not just establishing an administrative office in the provost's office, a vice provostship, but we're having a community-based council which can bring the diverse points of view of the institution to that office so that the vice provost will have the guidance and the feedback on an ongoing basis from representatives of the diversity of our community. And I think it's very creative, and I think I certainly applaud the efforts of the Diversity and Inclusion Council to reach out in the way they have to the community, and this is part of that. This is really an effort not so much for us to answer your questions, but for us to hear your suggestions on what we can do to improve and move forward. And I can tell you, I'm very confident that the leaders and the council as a whole will take seriously what they hear from you, and what you say is going to become part of what we're putting into the report that will result in the recommendations that will come to me, will come to Provost Lerman, will be shared with the Board of Trustees and with their special committee on diversity and inclusion, and will inform and guide and shape the work of the new Vice Provost. So thanks again for being here. Thanks to the Council and its leaders, and I look forward to hearing everybody's ideas. Thank you.